What is a company secret you can share because you don't work there anymore? So, worked for ESPN for years. They used to charge people to be an insider, which gave you fantasy advice if you sent an email. Those experts were myself and other randoms here in Omaha in a call center. No training, just our opinions. Story 2. There's a ton of employee theft that occurs at certain furniture outlets. Employee wants a new couch, then just type up an invoice saying this $3,000 sofa was damaged while being moved around the showroom, and it was then discounted and sold for $300. Got a sectional that was delivered but doesn't show up on your inventory sheet? Just take it home and post it on Facebook Marketplace. One guy was even so brazen that he would sell something, then fudge the numbers to make it look like it was sold at a lower price and pocket the difference. For instance, a sofa is listed at $1,000, but it's been sitting for a while, so he has some leeway to offer a discount. Well, here comes a customer and buys the sofa for $1,000. The salesman reports that the customer negotiated the price down to $800, and he pockets the extra $200. That particular guy got so confident that he could get away with anything, that he even started taking cuts of sales that were made with credit/debit cards. Someone comes in and buys a sofa for $1,000 on a credit card. He then writes that the customer came back the same day and complained about a rip in one of the cushions, so he issued a $150 cash refund to police the customer. That dude stole into the $10,000s of dollars and got away with it for years. When the regional management finally figured it out, they just fired the guy and kept the whole incident quiet. Story 3. I worked at a financial betting company. Basically, customers bet on the movement of stocks, rather than actually buying and selling them. Officially, the company made money from a commission charged for each bet. But this is how the company actually made money. There were a very small percentage of customers who always won their bets, almost certainly because of insider information. Whenever one of these people made a bet, the company placed the same bet, often for millions. Story 4. I used to work for a credit card company, and on their applications website, there was a checkbox for priority processing. This cost £10 and ensured that you jumped the queue when applications were processed. In reality, there wasn't any such queue jumping facility. Everyone who paid extra for priority processing was automatically declined as they were deemed too desperate for credit. Story 5. I wrote software at a major insurance company that was very big on security. If we needed to make an update, we weren't allowed to remote into the server, even though you physically could. It was just against policy. To make an update, you had to put your changes onto portable storage, show your ID to the security guy, use your key to open the door, get escorted to the server, then they would observe you via cameras. The login? Admin. The password? Blank. Literally no password. Story 6. At Victoria's Secret, I would measure the girls/women's bra size. We only sell up to 38 DDD in store. I was told by my managers that if someone measured over a 38 DDD, to just lie and say a close size. Usually if they were 40 or 42, we could recommend online shopping, but for people who were 44, 46, 48, we always had to say 38 band size anyway and get them a bra and convince them to not try it on in store. That way we made a sale. Returns didn't affect the numbers apparently. I always was honest to the customer about their size, and because of that a lot of women walked out because we didn't carry their size, but my managers were very number and sale heavy that they would sometimes come over and lie about the women's size if they saw me measuring wrong. There's a lot more about Victoria's Secret where this came from. Story 7. I used to remodel Pizza Hut's, Arby's, Wendy's, and KFC stores. Arby's kitchens were the cleanest I've ever seen anywhere. KFC had grease residue, but still clean. Wendy wasn't bad, just not as thorough. The first Pizza Hut had me swear them off for life, and continued to gusset that opinion for the next 20 plus stores. I have not eaten Pizza Hut in 25 years. My kids have never eaten Pizza Hut. We found dead mice in and under the make tables, and food that had to be at least months old. Mice were living in the bottom of the buffet bar. Mouse crap everywhere, roaches, and a plethora of other filthy things. Story 8. Most clothes that get donated to Goodwill get thrown out. At a normal store, they go through donations, and if it's not good enough, stains or tears on clothes, electronics that don't work, etc., or if it's been in the store for a month, it gets sent to a Goodwill outlet store. Those are cheaper, but a lot of things still don't get bought here. If they are at the outlet store for long enough, they're just thrown out. You wouldn't think it would be that many clothes, but in the few months I worked there, about half our donations got sent to the outlet stores, and most of the stuff there gets thrown out eventually. Also, please don't donate your sperm socks to Goodwill. Story 9. The adult toy shop that I worked at sold massages from topless women. They gave more than massages if the customer asked. This sounds awful. What is the address? Story 10. The senior partner at a regional office of a law firm insisted on opening all incoming office correspondence so he could add charges to the client's files for himself. He would charge out of $1,000 to $1,200 per day reading mail that he had no need to. 90% of the correspondence was for matters that he was not working on or was not qualified to work on. He was a commercial lawyer reading correspondence on criminal/family law matters. He once charged for his time reading a letter attaching a check which was a fundraising donation to be sent to the family of the deceased. Story 11. Brake pads are free after the first purchase. This shouldn't be a secret, but apparently it is for most people. I managed an AutoZone for 4 years. I noticed the brake pads have a lifetime warranty. Most people think that means if the brake pads have a problem, then they can get a new set. They don't, however, realize that includes normal wear. It's lifetime of the vehicle, not the pads themselves. So when your brake pads wear out, you can just come trade them in for new ones at no cost for as long as you own that vehicle. Or really any vehicle that takes that specific part number if you're sly enough. It's more or less a loss leader for the company to get people in the door. And most people don't realize it and pay for new pads every time theirs wear out and don't mention the warranty or bring old ones to trade in or get their money back. If you don't mention the warranty, we don't look it up because we're usually too busy or most employees too new to even know it was a thing. Also, my district and regional bosses once told us in a meeting we had up to $150 per customer we could use to help them out to create a good experience to keep people coming back. Most employees won't do it because they're corporate bootlickers. But you could get that battery for free if the manager knows they're allowed to help people in a bind up to $150. Story 12. I used to work for Lowe's in the contact center, not the store. Absolutely no one knows where your package is. What you see on the tracking info you're given is what we see. You've been waiting 7 months for your refrigerator? That sucks. Hopefully they'll get there eventually. We don't know if the inventory reflected to us is correct or not. Policy is, if it says it's in stock, we tell you it's in stock, despite the fact that there's a good chance it's not in stock. Item not coming fast enough, want a refund? I'll submit the request for you, but it might be a month before you hear back. Lowe's doesn't give a fuck about you or your order, which might be obvious. But what might not be obvious is that absolutely no one in that company has any clue what's going on at any given time. Everything is run completely on guesses, not even best guesses. Oftentimes just wild guesses. Story 13. I worked at a company selling beauty and health products and I'm in charge of their finances. From product to packaging, it costs us $13 to make. We sell one for $200 and people bought them like crazy. We went from making thousands to making millions per month. Making that much money in a short amount of time is what eventually kills the company. Story 14. I worked at Abercrombie & Fitch in 2008. I don't even know where to start. Sales associates were called models and you had to be recruited to work there. There was a look policy and a bunch of books for managers to look at pictures of people who had the Abercrombie look. This was a bizarre guideline for managers to recruit by. Managers basically got promoted based on their ability to recruit attractive employees. Associates who were not as attractive could work in the back and be part of the impact team. Every few months or so, the top 5 attractive girls and the top 5 attractive guys would get together for a cast of photo, but it got sent to corporate A&F. I remember a lot of hurt feelings around this because many people wouldn't be asked to be in it. The store did not sell any black clothing at that time. Associates could not wear eye makeup, lipstick, blush, or nail polish. If you had any of these on, a manager could send you home or ask you to take it off in the back. The cologne sprayed out of machines in the ceilings, and we would also go around and spray the clothes every few hours. Everything needed to be folded to perfection, and the message I got was that making the store look nice came before customer service. The previous CEO has been gone for a long time, and it's totally different now. They rebranded to be more like H&M or other fast fashion chains. I don't think a store could survive like that in 2022. Some of the practices were so controversial. Story 15. Used to work for Walmart. Horrible start already, I know. They purposely underscheduled your hours so you wouldn't qualify for full-time benefits. Let me explain. I was hired on as a full-timer. I found out the company offers different levels of benefits, including health insurance if you're full-time compared to part-time. But part-timers got limited dental and vision only included partial purchase of frames. Full-timers got full dental and everything was included in your vision plan. The doctor visit, the prescription, full frame purchase, etc. Well, in order to be considered full-time, you need to work more than 33 hours consistently for 3 months. If you're anything less than 33 hours, you're considered part-time. My schedule was always 33 hours or more for exactly 2 months and 3 weeks. My very last work week of the 3-month time period would be 32.5 hours exactly, and each and every 3 months this would happen. I'd asked my manager why this kept happening, and she lied to my face every time. Different excuses each time too, saying the store manager didn't allow overtime, or how the company didn't have any extra hours to give, or say the store manager didn't project for any additional hours for our department. But the biggest one is that we would get in trouble if we worked even 1 minute over. We had to constantly check our hours, and if we stayed late one day, they would force us to leave early on that last week, but usually they would force us to take longer lunches, essentially screwing the other people in our department. Oh, and the biggest issue was, let's say you finally work 3 months straight at 33 hours or over and qualify for full-time benefits. If on your next 3-month cycle you worked even 1 week at 32 hours, you would go back to part-time benefits. You would lose your full-time benefit status really quickly. This happened to many other coworkers I knew. Story 16. I worked at a large organic food grocery store. Most of our produce wasn't organic. People would buy produce, slap a certified organic sticker on them, and sell them to us. We knew this, but it didn't stop us because it meant much higher profits. I went to that grocery store's top organic food rival for a job interview. I was offered the job, but I opted not to take it because the drive was too far and the pay wasn't much more. However, when they gave me a tour, the same Amish produce seller was there. I asked the store manager, "Is all of your produce organic?" She smiled and said, "All of our produce is labeled organic, so what do you think?" I said, "I think I recognize those Amish people from my previous job," and she laughed about that for about 10 minutes. Organic food is such a sham. Story 17. The security company that I used to work for. Their logo is a yellow horse and the name rhymes with Saladin. They've been the target of numerous lawsuits from former employees because of working conditions, abusive behavior from management, and forcing employees to work way beyond their end of their shifts. They tried to reprimand me for going to a job interview with another company. The lady that used to run the Halifax office slept around with a number of employees. This was confirmed by a few people, including a supervisor and CSM that left. They forced a guard to work an overtime shift whilst he was suffering from a ruptured testicle after being kicked by an irate hospital patient. They also tried to force another employee to work while she was suffering a gallbladder attack. They only relented when a police officer who was on site reminded them it was illegal for them to force someone to work while they were sick. Story 18. We have a fake employee we transfer all our sales calls to. Let's call him Jack. Our manager got her actor friend to record a voicemail message, and anytime someone calls to sell us toner or warn us about our car's extended warranty, we will say, "Oh, you want to talk to Jack," and transfer them to the fake voicemail. Soon salespeople would start asking for Jack as soon as we picked up, and that saved time. Some even got really cocky, saying stuff like, "Hey, transfer me to Jack, sweetheart. He's expecting my call." Saved us a lot of time having to talk to them, and if it was a slow day, we can always get a laugh listening to the voicemails people left Jack. Story 19. I worked at a dodgy UK firm for elderly and disabled people back in the mid-2000s. The racket was selling stair lifts and mobility scooters to old people. They would install a stair lift for £3,000 to £5,000, then keep tabs on the customer with courtesy calls until the old person passes. Offer to remove and resell the stair lift for the bereaved family. Sell the stair lift on the next old person at full price. 90% of the time the stair lift sale would get lost in the admin of dealing with the death/house, sale/funeral, and all the other stuff after a loved one passes. The family would just forget. If the family did call us, we were instructed to tell them we still had it in stock, but it hadn't sold. Even if they really pressed us for the stair lift, we had a pile of old broken ones in the mill building attic. But who has space to store a 15-feet pile of railing and chair? I left the company when they tried making me force sales on confused old people. Story 20. Booking.com warnings, book quickly because there's only one room available at this hotel, are bullshit. Just so you guys know, they are not only scummy with the customers. The reason that made me leave the company was one day when I saw HR scolding one of my colleagues in front of the whole team for not coming into the office 2 days prior. The reason my friend didn't come to the office was because his son had a serious medical condition and my friend had to rush him to the ER. But apparently this reason was not good enough for booking. They treat their employees like crap. Story 21. I used to work at a major DIY store and every complaint we got was pretty much justified because it almost always boiled down to the fact that we weren't properly staffed. Like most of the time there would only be one person working the paint section during the day, which is insane since paint is one of the most popular things we sell. So when he goes on break, there's just a bunch of frustrated customers who'd have to wait an hour just to pick out one thing. Story 22. Phone stores commit identity fraud all the time because they screw up and make a mistake on your contract. Every shop I worked at, regardless of what company it was, they would forge signatures, fake secondary ID like bank statements and bills and so on. And I worked in the industry for almost 20 years for every major provider in Australia, so it's not isolated, it's stupidly common across the whole industry. Even when people got caught doing it, it was all, "You naughty boy, don't get caught. I mean, don't do that next time," with a wink and a nudge. They don't care as long as they get their commission. Other issues I've found very common: salespeople who lie through their teeth to get people to sign up, and then when the complaints start to mount, the company simply shifts them to another store and the manager tells the angry customers they've been sacked. Selling second-hand phones as brand new happened all the time. Shop demo phones, which are definitely not new, being sold on 2-year contracts as if they were. Salespeople not telling customers about free gifts that come with their plan, but still invoicing them and keeping them themselves. And not little stuff either, stuff like free games consoles and TVs. Story 23. Went to a friend's house and he showed me some mammoth bones that had been found when work began on a local housing estate. Instead of notifying the relevant authorities and having the place checked for vital archaeological study, which would have ended or at least halted building for a while, the companies involved hushed it up and quickly went on building their horrible matchbox houses. It kills me to know that there's a housing estate sitting on top of precious archaeological information. Story 24. Used to work in a UK oil refinery. There's only 6, so you can try and guess the company. And the on-site boilers, which are huge and raise steam to 99 bar, had an issue with the inlet guide vanes, basically an arm that moves a fan and controls the amount of air going in. The issue meant that the boiler could be flooded with fuel if not enough oxygen got in, and basically become a high-pressure bomb with a substantial blast radius. Refusing to fix it because that would mean turning off the boiler, the solution was whenever they needed to allow more or less air in, they would use a piece of scaffolding pole nicknamed the Persuader to move the guide vane and hence allow more or less air in. You don't need to be a process safety expert to know that a scaffolding pole is not a suitable replacement for a traditional control system. Story 25. I was a hotel service supervisor for a large French company, second largest hotel chain in the world. Whenever you see a bunch of young folk working at the hotel, be sure they are doing it like rabbits in the storage areas. We ran an inspection at the basement with the maintenance team to check the generators, while trying to show a new hire that we had those emergency lines that glow in the dark, directing you to the generator. One of the guys pulled up a dark light and we could see the semen trails on the ground on the walls. Later, at an end-of-year party, we rented a ranch once a year to celebrate our year's good work. I saw some of the guys showing each other photos they took of former employees giving them head and such. Like rabbits, I say. Thank you so much for watching. If you have stories of your own, feel free to write them below in the comments so I can make a video on them in the future. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one.